Sorry, right. Sorry. No. I'm gonna ham it out. We are up to where it says, Amr, Family Rabbi Boom Bar Chia, which is in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th line down. Family Rabbi Boom Bar Chia, Amr Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Boom Bar Chia said, Rabbi Lezer Shah. Rabbi Lezer asked the following question. Parim Yisrafim Sirim and Yisrafim. The parim which are burnt and the sirim which are burnt, they're supposed to be burnt outside the camp. Really, the parim and Yisrafim, Sirim and Yisrafim, there are two kinds. There's one which are on Yom Kippur, that's the part of Yom Kippur which are burnt. The carcasses minus the murim are burned outside the camp. Also the parahalim davar. When the Sanhedrin forget rules incorrectly, and the Soyer also is a Soyer when the nation serves over the Zorah. So all these things are burnt outside the Machane. Okay, fine. The question is like this. And I should point out that when you take them out, so whoever's carrying them is Metamei V'Gadim, right? Right. So we had it. So in Bavli. So I'm Rabbi Mechir, Rabbi Lezer Shah, Parim Yisrael Shiyata Roiv HaEver. Hamashlim l'rov. What if the majority of the limb has gone out, and of the limb which is going to make it more than 50%? In other words, that limb has not completely gone out yet. When that limb has completely gone out, it's 51%. But that limb itself is only 51% out. So really, right now, it's something less than 50%, right? But nevertheless, the majority of the animal itself, 49%, I'm just using round-off figures, 49% is out. The limb, which is going to bring it up to 51%, the majority of it is out. So it's actually less than 50%, but you have a double rove here. What's the status? As if the animal's completely out, is rove out, and it's already Metamei V'Gadim or not. So Mil Samaras, it says more, wait, before you go on, that it sounds like Mil Samaras Beruba Dover Toli. That has to do with majority, not the complete carcass. If that's the case, Pshito Hada Milsa. The following case is simple. Yotza Rubo. Now, Rubo here really means the majority of the animal, but not the majority. In other words, if that which if the rove of the animal goes out besides one aver, right? In other words, you have rove, except for one aver. The same aver we were discussing before, the rove, which is the majority, would be completed by, let's say, the hand, right? Okay, so except for that hand, all the rest of the animal's out. Again, if it's called rubo, it's not really the rove, it's a minority. So 49%. What it means to say, the rove, if you include the following aver, which we're about to discuss, right? And then, v'achakach yotza rova aver. Then that aver, the same one we were discussing before, rove of that one goes out, but not at the same time. In other words, the 49% of the animal goes back, right? And now that aver, which would have made 51%, a majority of it goes out. When the other animal's back already. The other part of the animal's back. You see what's going on? So 49% of it is out.
So is it additive?
Right, is additive, right? Or is it in replace? Right, that's exactly the question. So says Mar, again, Yotza Rubo. In other words, that which would make a rove with that aver. Yotza Rovo aver amachlim l'rov. And then the majority of that aver which went out makes up to rove. So lo tzurcha da. That's not a question. In fact, it does become is Metamei V'Gadim. Because since it goes after rove, it's added. Yeah, it adds. It's cumulative, right? Rather, lo tzurcha da ella. The following question is a question. Yotza aver. If it's limb by limb, the animal goes out, and the way the Mepharshim explained it in a similar case in the Bavli, you cut off each limb as it goes out. As the limb goes out, chop it off. The limb goes off, you chop it off. In that case, this is going to be cumulative. That's our question, right? Yotza aver, chakach yotza rove. It says ruba aver, but it's supposed to be rove ha aver. Hamash the rove, and then finally you get up to the majority of the aver, which is going to make it up to the rove. So it's a cumulative in that case as well. Okay? So there we also say that, well, if you look at all the Evarim which went out, you're already up to 51%. Or do I say, no, they didn't all go out at one time, nor did they go out really one after the other, because as each one went out, I chopped it off, so there's nothing to accumulate. So Gemara doesn't answer that question. Well, it just leaves it up dangling. Rabbi Chia Barba, Rabbi Lazar, Chia Barba is the name Rabbi Lazar. I'm sorry, Chia Barba, Rabbi Lazar, Shol. Rabbi Lazar asked the following question. Point is from you have Purim and the sort of serum which should be burnt. Sheyatsu, which went out, the Chazu, and then they came back. Now, in other words, some reason the people who carried out, they took the carcass out, they changed their mind, they came back in. So, now, Pshita derech chazir and Matai Gadim. Let's say they switched people, right? And certain people who took it back who didn't take it out. There's definitely not Matai Gadim. Lo tzur chodot, that's our Shaila. Ella, rather. This is the final question. Once they started going out, they're Matai Gadim. Now, there are various different Mefarshim with the Korban. Ada is one pshat, and Nira is another pshat. Rashi and Taisus are actually Korban is two pshatim. And the Nir says that the two pshatim, Perusha, Rashi, and Taisus in the Bavli and Zvachim. However, I want to propose my own pshat, which I think is a good one. I like it. Which is that, let's say, the animal went out already, then it came back. So normally what constitutes Yitziyah? Rove. But here the animal is fully out once already, right? So you just put it back for some reason. Now you take it out. The second time around, do you also need rove or even a mashu? You understand? Because the first time around you need a rove. But already it was rove out. Now you put it back in and taking it out again. The second time, do you also need rove or is a mashu enough? Because the rove is once since it's been out, right?
Cumulative.
Right, it's cumulative, right? So and these people are carried outside, and it's already been out already. So therefore, they should be chayav. So it says Gemara, Rabbi Ba. So Rabbi Ba, and the Gemara doesn't answer the question either. Now Gemara goes to another question.
Then the second party, people that are taking it out, when do they become a Tamei Begonim? When it goes out?
Even a little bit? That's Gemara's question.
Even if they pick it up while it's still in the base of Mikdash?
No, because they have to leave with it. The question is how much they have to leave with it, right? First part has to leave a rove. The second part, the Gemara doesn't answer how much they have to leave with it. Okay, now, the Gemara asks the question, before we said it goes after rove, right? That was the whole premise of all our questions, right? Ask Mesa Rabbi Yisrael Bar, but say how can you say it depends on rove? But then we learn, are you selling those on bimotos? They're carrying it on poles. And there were two people in front, two people in back. The first one's left to the wall of the Azar. The last ones did not yet leave. The first guy's in time Godim, even though it's not rove, right? The last one's not Godim until it goes out. Yotzu, once they go out, they're both Godim. So we see it's contingent not on rove, but on the people going out, right? The bunch of people outside, even the rove is not outside, it seems they're Tomei. Some Rabbi Yudan Avoid the Rabbi Nisanya, Rabbi Yudan and Father Nisanya said, Shanihi, there it's different. You know why? The Chsika says Vahotzi. Hachiyotzi Rishus Kol Hamotzi. It says Vahotzi, and Vahotzi we learn means not that you have to add the animals to go out. The person who's taking out should be completely out. So all we said, Echnami. The truth is you don't need the majority of the animal, you need the majority of the person. Once you have the majority of the person who's taking out, that's already a chayiv. Okay, so we actually reverse what we said before. It's not the animal; it's the person. You can ask the similar questions about the person who goes out, but it's the person, not the animal. So therefore, if you have four people carrying the animal, two in front and two in back, it's when the majority of those two people in front left the precincts of the Beis HaMikdash.
But that's only 50% of the people. So it
doesn't matter. Each person is dependent. Each person is dependent. Not majority of the carriers, the majority of each person who's carrying. That's what it's going to be, okay? Rishus kol hamotzi, the person who's carrying. Okay, Rabbi Yirmiyah Amar Rabbi Lezer Shol. Rabbi Yirmiyah said another question Rabbi Lezer asked. Painas Ravisim and Israfim. This is an interesting question. Painas Ravisim and Israfim. Next word is a mistake. Korban Pnei Moshe, take it out. These animals, the Maushi Posum Shum Yotze. So the law, of course, if an animal leaves the precincts of the Beis HaMikdash before he does Rikas Adam, he can't do Rikas Adam. But these animals are leaving anyway. Right? They're on their way out. So they left a little bit early. Does that bother us or not? But any other animal which is not supposed to go out goes out, of course, it bothers us. But these animals are going out anyway. Right? So what's their status before they went? If they left prematurely. Okay? Matrichle, what's the Shiloh? Says maybe it's only like Rabbi Shimon Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan and Pshita, but Rabbi Yochanan's Pashut. How so? These Balkan, we have Machlokas Hashochi Toda Bifnim. If somebody shechted took carbon toida inside the Beis HaMikdash, obviously you should outside the base, inside the Beis HaMikdash, the lachma and the bread, which is supposed to be connected to the toda, is chutz lachoma, is outside the wall. Lo kidesh olechem, the bread does not become kodesh. In other words, there must be linkage. So what wall are we talking about? Rabbi Yochanan chutz l'chomas Yerushalmi. Rabbi Yochanan says when it's outside the wall of Yerushalayim, it doesn't become kodesh. But if it's in the wall of Yerushalayim, even if it's on the Beis HaMikdash proper, it becomes kodesh. Rabbi Shimon Lakish Amar chutz l'chomas Hazorah. Even if it's just outside the walls of the Hazorah, it doesn't become kodesh. Rabbi Shimon Lakish kedaite, and Rabbi Shimon Lakish is that follows his opinion. Dam Rabbi Yerushalmi B'Sher Shimon Lakish. Rabbi Yerushalmi said name Rabbi Shimon Lakish B'Aser Shlomi Shiyotza. If the meter Shlomi left the precincts of the Beis HaMikdash, v'achar kach nichnas and then came back, but is a kolamin Adam, and then he did Zrikas Adam, it's too late. Because Niv Shlomi Shiyotza, even though the meter Shlomi can be consumed in the entire city of Yerushalayim, just like Meiser Sheni can, just like the Toda bread, just like Toda bread can, so nevertheless, it has to be in Azara and in the Beis HaMikdash at the time of the shchita, the bread, and so too the shlomim, the meat must be inside the Azara at the time of the Zrika in order for the Zrika Saddam to be good. Even if it left and came back, that's no good. Now, so we see according to Reish Lakish, it's according to Reish Lakish, really we have the question. According to Rabbi Yochanan, it's not a question. According to Rabbi Yochanan, even if it's not outside the wall, even if it's not in the Beis HaMikdash, nevertheless, the bread could become kadosh and the shlomi could become kadosh. So here we'll say the same thing as even though the part of the service left the Beis HaMikdash, it could be okay. But according to Reish Lakish, who says that once it leaves the walls of the Beis HaMikdash, it's not okay. So according to him, what's the status here by the part of the service here in Israfim? Says more, no. I feel Rabbi Yochanan tzrichle, even like Rabbi Yochanan, it's a shayla. I'm Rabbi Yossi, I skip. I'm Rabbi Yossi, I feel Rabbi Yochanan tzrichle. Yerushalayim ava b'shein mechitza l'kodshe kodshim.
Wait, so let me just.
Yeah, Yerushalayim ava pi shein mechitza l'kodshe kodshim. Look, Rabbi Yochanan said at least that's being Yerushalayim, right? Even though you don't need even though Yerushalayim is not a wall vis-a-vis Chatos Oshim, which remain within the precincts of the Beis HaMikdash proper. That's not a question. But Shlamim, Toda, they can be inside the entire wall of Yerushalayim, not just Azor. So that Rabbi Yochanan defines, right? But here, when these permanent service in the Srafim left, they didn't just leave the Azara, they left Yerushalayim altogether, right? So maybe that taka makes it possible. Even Rabbi Yochanan, who's Mekel, maybe it's only Mekel up to the wall, not beyond the wall, right? So here he wanted to be Mekel even beyond the wall, right? So that's to say, says more fascinating thing. Rabbi Mona says, Eina mechitzo lahem. And the Shari Torah Yisrael changed the gears slightly, he just changed it to Ein mechitzo lahem, which just takes out and changes the Eino to Ein. And what it means is that, no, Shlomim has a wall. Well, let's take the other, start from the top. Chatas Nashim has a wall, the Azorah. Can't leave the Azorah. Shlomi and Torah have walls. What's the walls of Shlomi and Torah? Yerushalayim. These, the permanent Yisrafim, they have no walls. because they go outside. And Rabbi Yochanan will say, each thing with its own walls, and that which has no walls has no walls. So Rabbi Yochanan will say, even though the Parim Yisrael and Yisrafim left the precincts of the Azorah, they left the Beis HaMikdash, they left Yerushalayim. Doesn't matter, because they have no status of walls. And the proof of that is that the Torah said, I think, although he doesn't, the Gemara doesn't say explicitly, but I think, because it says, take it to a Torah place and burn it. What do we care? Once it's outside Yerushalayim, what do we care if it's a Torah place or a Talmud place? But it means that this is, so to speak, even outside Yerushalayim is part and parcel of our concern, because they have no mechitza at all. And therefore they retain their status as karbonos, even when they're beyond the Yerushalayim, make sure to burn in a Torah place, not in a Talmud place. Okay? Rabbi Lezer Shah. Rabbi Lezer asked, Poem Yisrafim and Sirin Yisrafim, Maushi Itame. Now here it says Begadim, but it's a typo. Everybody says Ochl. It should be Ochlim. Below Hechsher. Poem Yisrafim and Sirin Yisrafim. Of course you know the Matavi Begadim. The moment they leave, you leave. But the Shiloh is rather Ochlim. Now this is a very big Chiddush. Below Ochlim, to show Ochlim below Hechsher, below Tuma. What we mean is amazing. Havamina. Maybe the point of Yisrafim and Sirin Yisrafim, when you carry them, they're Matami Begadim, right? So maybe the Gemara is saying, maybe even when they're alive, they should Matami all food who touches them. Because there's no distinction in quality between these animals that are alive. What changed? They're korbanos before, they're korbanos after. So maybe they're matami even while they're alive.
You ever have that concept?
No, never. But that's what we're saying here, right? Why? And the argument is, anything which is eventually going to become matami tuma chamura, maybe even when it's alive.
So paraduma is not doesn't matami when it's alive.
But it's not matami tuma chamura. Oh, it is. You're right. It is matami tuma chamura. It's a good point. I don't know. It's a very strange avamina.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. But Gemara asks an even stronger question. Gemara answers the question of the question. This is a very good question. Shmuel Kaputkiya said, what? How can you say this? Me'atli tamusi mureyan. If the animals are tamei, the murim should be tamei. Your narish can't be marked the karbonos, right? So how can you ever put them in murim in the mizbeach? It's a very stark kasha. Says the Gemara, Elob shapirshu. Says the Gemara, okay, you're right. It's talking about it only be matame once the murim are gone. Okay, we'll grant that. Says more no. I feel tamer lo pirshu. I have an even better answer. Tremendous alum l'shachat. Says even if they haven't yet been separated, you know what it would be like? Ka'adol, like we learned, ein mechatos metamim davar. Mechatos are not metami something. Lachsor litamos mimenu. It's an amazing concept. Mechatos paraduma water is not metami something else, that it can become tame back from it. The paraduma water can make something else tame, but it can't become tame back. And here too, the Gemara wants to say, the murim are part and parcel of the animal. They can't become tame from itself. It's an interesting parallel, because I don't know if the parallel paraduma is exactly the same, but
Kind of tame from itself, or it itself is tame?
the paraduma water is metame.
Right.
But it itself doesn't become tummy.
Right.
The parallel is stronger than I'm actually making out. What it means is that paraduma water is tummy, anybody who touches it,
Right.
but it's not tummy. What does it mean? It only exudes tuma. It itself is not tummy.
Yeah.
So too, let's say the same thing about the Gemara says. Let's just say the paraduma and Yisrafim. They'll exude tuma. Anything which touches them will become tummy, but they themselves are not tummy. And therefore the murim will remain tahor. Okay, it's a remarkable concept. That something beyond it will become tummy, but not it itself. That could be a special category in halacha. Says I don't like it.
So I was going to say that answers the original question.
Right.
Because even when it's alive, it certainly is not tummy.
Right, but it can make somebody else tummy. It can make something else tummy. But it'd still be a remarkable category in halacha. It'd be a very unique category. Says more, hey, Steve, Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Yirmiyah asks, okay, so let me ask you like this. Harei nivlas oftar, the carcass of a dead kosher bird, right, a Purdue chicken. Harehu matami tumas ochlin below hechsher v'lo tuma. According to you, it should be matami tumas ochlin, without getting wet and without becoming additionally tamei. B'vnei shesofan l'tamei tuma chamura. Now here it's after death at least.
It's only with the Leah.
Big more is getting there. Rabbi Yosef said, Nivas of tar ein la mechitza. Says more, no, there it's different. Nivas of tar has no mechitza. In other words, well, I should say it like this. I really read the Gemara, not exactly. Hey, Rabbi Yirmiyah said, Eser Rabbi Yirmiyah is, Arei Nivas of tar, Arei matami tumasochem b'lech shalotum, Neshus Sovim tamas tumah chamur is a proof that here too we should say the same thing. It's not a question so much as a proof. But just like over there we say the Nivas of tar is mitame tumas ochlin, right, without behechsher and without any additional tumah, because eventually when you swallow it's mitame tumah chamura. So too the same thing over here, by let's say by the part of Yisrael Mitzir Yisrafim. Rabbi Yosef said, no, I don't like the comparison. Nivas of tar, ava ein la mechitza. Ein la mechitza means it needs no additional change in status in order to be mitame, right? All you have to do is swallow it, right? So therefore, right now it can be mitame tumas ochlin, even before you actually swallow it. Then you could say but these, in order for them to reach the status of tumah chamur, they have to leave Yerushalmi. So how before that, even after they're dead, even forget about from their life, and even after they're dead, you can't say sofa l'tami tumah chamura. It's only when they have a changed status, when they leave Yerushalmi. It's not comparable to nivlos sof tor. So there's more amari mana. Then you have the point you did before. They're still comparable. Nivlos sof tor yesh lo mechitza. But nivlos sof tor also's got a barrier. It's got to cross until it's mitami tumah chamura. What is that? Adamu mechitza also. The swallowing. It's not mitami tumah chamura unless you swallow it, right? The lokain ilu hevi kelev, and the proof of that is, let's say you bring a dog, so you bishop God, and you put garments on the dog. Yerushalmi, the sense of humor. Ve'achilo nivla softar, and you give the dog a Purdue chicken to eat. Shema, next word is a typo. Shema mitami begodim basically does it make the garments of the dog tame? Obviously not, right? So it's only a man's begodim which can become tummy when he swallows the nivlos of tar. So nivlos of tar is completely comparable to our parim nisram sirin nisrafi. Just like the nivlos of tar needs a mechitza. It's got to go down the hatch in order to be matami the garments. A hatch of a human being, right, not of a dog. So to here, parim nisram sirin nisrafim, they have to leave Yerushalmi in order to be matame. Just like nivlos of tar, it's matame ochlim even before that, without hechsher l'kabel tuma, without any additional tuma. So let's say by part of Yisrael, it's in this rafim, then before they leave Yerushalayim, they're matame.
The next scenario would have been dogs pulling the wagon out the base of Mikdash.
Right, the dogs, that's good. I don't know, we didn't think of that one. Alright, I'm Rabbi Lezer Derumia. Rabbi Lezer Derumia said no. Nivlos of tar mechitzasa b'chol ma'akom. And there is still a difference. Nivlos of tar, the mechitza is like a roving mechitza. No matter where you go, though, you can always provide a mechitza for it.
Yeah,
that's why, right, the human being. However, Elu is interesting, the distinction. Elu mechitzatz and chutz Yerushalayim. Here the mechitza is dafka leaving Yerushalayim, so therefore perhaps it's not comparable. Okay, I'm Rabbi Lezer. Let's say, pouring this on the sin this rafim. Sheshachni yishachti lizrok dam l'moch in order to do zrikas adam tomorrow. Pigel. Now that's not true, of course, because pigel is where you zorek the dam to eat it tomorrow, right? I'm not lechol or michutzim komo chutzis mara, right? So the Gillian Ephraim says here pigel means possible. It's obviously not a pigel because you have to zrikas adam. It has to be that you do a matir in order to do the nitar or the mutar at the wrong time. So when it says pigel, it's not that good. But this in the next case is a good case. If you did the Zrikas Adam with the intent of doing the Aktor Simurin tomorrow, that's a pigul, right? That's a true pigul. Now what happens like this? You did the Zrikas Adam with the intent, Lisovis Besoro, to burn the flesh, which of course you have to do by these Parnis Ravis in the Serafim, Lamorcha at the wrong time. Low pigul. It's not considered pigul. Why? Shelo chishev lo achilas adam lo mizbech, lo achilas mizbech. Has to be one of two things you had to throw on by the time of Zrika or Shchita or Kabbalah, that to either do achilas adam or achilas mizbech at the wrong time or wrong place. And that's, you didn't have either though, because Sreifa is not eaten either. Rabbi Shammai boy, of doing Murim, a corollary of this principle is not a case of Pigel, but let's say the Murim got lost. Of doing Murim, the Murim got lost. Of the Purim Yisrael and Sin Yisrael. Mal Lizor Kasadam, can you do this because Adam alabasar on the flesh which is going to be burnt? But you can never do this because Adam if you lose the Murim, right? Can't do this because Adam if you lose the Murim. But you do this because Adam because you still have the meat which has to be burnt. Now it's true, it's not Achilas Mizbeach or Achilas Adam, but it's something which has to be done, right? It's a mitzvah which will still be done with it. So can we like clutch at that straw, right? Says Mar v'lo shmiya dam Rabbi Lozi. He didn't hear that which Rabbi Lozi said. Shlo chishev lo achilas adam lo achilas mizbech. Like you said, it doesn't work. It's either you only do zrikas more when there's achilas zrikas adam is achilas adam achilas mizbech. This doesn't fulfill either criteria. Tana Rabbi Zakai zor shesarif metami b'godim. If a zor burnt the carcasses, so he's metame b'godim. That's true. Says the word lo tzurchodah. That's not a question. Lo ella mao shukshem b'layl. Can you do the sreifa at night? So says the word, why not? Kavachom. My make their murim shem b'kshem b'zor to put him murim on the mizbeach. A zor can't do b'kshem b'layl. You can do it at night. This elu shem kshem b'zor no din shir kosher b'layl. It's kosher to burn the carbon with a zor. You certainly could do it at night. And what remains of that? Yeah, not bad. Okay, so you could do it at night. So after Yom Kippur.
After Nilo.
Yeah. So he did it on Yom Kippur, but they could do it after Yom Kippur. That's what I'm saying. Vlad Soref. It says a person who becomes Soref, who burns the carcass, becomes Tomei. La Meitzis the Sower. That means not the person who ignites the fire, because that's just setting the fire. La Mesadis Marachim, or the person who sets up the logs. Ezu a sorf, what's a sorf? Zom a sayev shasrev. It's somebody who like rakes the coals, not to rake the coals. Turns over the carcass, barbecues, skewer, at times streifa. That's what it has to be. On Rabbi Yosef said, Hadama Messiah b'shas streifa and Targov. It's just the only person who helps at that time is Matam Megonim. Rabbi Yamashir says, Hamahapich b'kazayis. There's a shiur also. In order to be Matam Megonim, you have to turn over a kazayis, Matam Megonim. Says more lo tzurcha though. That's not a question. Lo tzurcha elo. This is a fine question. It's a cool question. Which of course I'm not going to answer. Hayami b'fnim. He was standing inside the Beis Hamikdash. Over the other kohen had a long beam. He was sticking outside the Beis Hamikdash and turning over the meat on the flame. Right.
But it had to be outside Yerushalayim also.
Outside Yerushalayim. Long, very long beam. Okay. Bow. What's the status? Does he become Tommy or not? Shmini minado. It's here from here. The Soraf. It says Yishabur Ma'motzi Achiyotzi Lachutz Avasorav Achiyosrav Lachutz. Well, actually, it does answer. It has to be just like the taking it out is outside. So to the Soraf it has to be standing outside. Time and Amar Chizkir over there. The Tommy Ad Erev. What does the Tommy Ad Erev mean? L'Rabos Asoref, in order to include somebody who burns. Of Hocha Kain. So to here it's the same thing, that anybody who burns is Tamei at Erev. I forget what that says. That's by Paraduma. Tamei Erev is, it says that people who become Tamei till nightfall, so to here they become Tamei until nightfall.
So the long arm
of the law
will make him.
Yeah, will be making Tamei. That's right. No, it won't. No, sorry. He must be standing outside. He has to be standing outside.
So it's like the tree, I'm trying to make the analogy.
The tree of Meiser Sheni, the Meiser Sheni up in the tree. Which one? Tree standing in the flame?
Tree going over Shisa Rabin.
Yeah.
So the limb on the next.
It's not considered Shisa Rabin. Right.
So that's the same thing.
Same thing, yes. Thinking like Yerushalmi already. Okay, it'll be an Amora someday. Said the Kohen Gadol, Giyas Soil Midbar. The soil has also got to the desert. How they know? So he used to make like stands, and we used to stand by each stand like a kiosk. Underneath him, used to wave flags. That way they would know the Sar reached the desert. I said, they had a better simon. The 3 meal from Yerushalmi until Beis Choron, which is the beginning of the desert. They would go meal, v'chozi meal, v'shoin meal. He says that that was the time when the mitzvah was fulfilled, when it got to the desert. So just walk a meal, come back a meal, and wait a meal. And once you can estimate that the person went 3 meal by you walking meal, and meal, the Olim Shia they know the Sar got to the desert. They had another simon. Nebuch, they didn't always have the simon. Lashon Shel Zahoris, they had a red thread. Kosher Piskul Shel Heichel, which was at the opening of the Heichel. Shegia Sar Lamidbar, when the Sar reached the desert. Haya Lashon Malvin, the thread would turn white. Shenemar Yukchat Eichem Kashayim, they'll be red. Kashel will be able to become white. Mount Ichtachos Kavalon, it's like big stands or slabs in which they would stand and wave flags. Hajjalach Perek Shnei Sirei. Bola Kohen Gadol Likros. The Kohen Gadol comes to read his Parshas of Yom Kippur. Imra wrote to the cross of being the boots. If he wants to read in the white garments which he's already wearing from that void, the Korah is entitled to. Vim Lav not be still slow and slow, he can put on his own personal white garment. Chazan HaKnesses, the Shamish, Noitel Sefer Torah, he takes the Sefer Torah, and also Rosh HaKnesses gives it to the president. Rosh HaKnesses, the president, and also the Skan gives it to the assistant Kohen Gadol. Skan, also the Kohen Gadol, the assistant gives the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol, Omed, the Kohen Gadol stands, Umekabel, and receives the Sefer Torah, V'korei, and reads it. V'omed, and he stands, V'korei, Achrei Mos, and then he stands and reads Achrei Mos, which is the Avod of Yom Kippur, Vach Ba'asar, and Emor, where it says the Korbanos of Yom Kippur for the Musaf, the Golos HaTorah, and he wraps the Torah, Mnichel Cheiko, puts it in his bosom, V'armin, it says, Yosem Mashakosif Nechem, Kosuv Ka, more than I read here, it says here, V'asar B'chum Shekudim, and then the Maftir from Parshas Pinchas, which would take too long to wind to, Korah Pei says it by heart. And Baruch Leshmar Baruch makes 8 brachos on this. Al Torah, Al Avodah, Al Odoya, Al Torah, for the Korbanos, for the thankfulness of Hashem, B'chil Savan, for atonement for sin, Val Mikdash, Val Yisrael, Val Kohanim, Val Shar Tefillah, and that the rest of their davening should be accepted as well. Haroah Kohen Gadol Shukor. Now there were 2 of those that took place simultaneously, and you couldn't see both. Haroah Kohen Gadol Shukor, when he saw the Kohen Gadol when he was reading, Ein Haroah Parvasar Nisrafi, he couldn't go out, couldn't leave Yerushalayim and see the bull and goat being burnt. Haroah Parvasar Nisrafi, and Haroah Kohen Gadol Shukor, he couldn't say the Kohen Gadol reading. Lo V'nei and Roshai, it's not because he weren't allowed to. Roshai said Derech HaCholka, it was far. They both be done simultaneously, so you have to buy your tickets in advance for whichever one. It doesn't say. It's interesting. You would, but I would, but obviously not. Who knows? Obviously it was a big thing because you obviously had a choice. How do you know you're supposed to read the parsha? Rabbi Yidi B'Shem reads and said Vayas. It says do. Matam lomer kasher tzvu Hashem. Why does it say do what God commanded? It's Moshe. You can't create the parsha. From here we learn to see the parsha. You read the parsha now. What does that mean? The ritual Tosis Shonim in the same means you have to do the commands. How do you do the command? It doesn't mean to execute the command, it means to do the command. How you do the command? You read the command.
Why? Which command are we talking about?
What?
It could be the entire avoda we're talking about, not necessarily the Kriyas Torah.
Right. But the way they're dash, it could. The way the drasha works, however, it could have said Vayas es Dvar Hashem. What does it mean? Kasher Tzivah Hashem means do what Hashem commanded. All right, you're right. It's not such a way to. You're right. Maybe like the other one. The Avudraham says that it's in order that he should let people know that he did what he's supposed to. Okay, Vayas Kasher Tzivah Hashem means okay, you're supposed to do what Hashem commanded. How do we know you did? So tell people. How people know? Read the parsha. That lets them know.
You like that better. Okay, good.
Right? Shem Rabbi Yochanan says, sure avodas, the rest of avodas of them big day lovin. You do it in the big day lovin. Obviously, we see that in the Mishnah, right? He does big day lovin. It says in our Mishnah, right? He either wears his own white garment which he was wearing or his own. Rabbi Yossi said, why? Lama. Shem b'chutz. Is it because they're outside? Hare shchita, hare ein el b'chutz v'ol the big days off. Shchita is outside, and it's done big days off. So why does he not do it over here at big days off as well? Rabbi Yochanan said, you're right. Ratza ayt the big days off, ratza ayt the big days off. You have a choice. Either one you can do. You can do either big days off. When it says big love in here, it's lav dafka. It doesn't mean specifically big day love. Give you big days off. It's up to him.
Now, you didn't have to go to the mikveh in between, did you?
No, because this change would not be mandated. It would just be up to its personal choice. And Matzina Shchita, you find the same Shem by Shchita. Ratza the big days off. Ratza the big day love. The Shchita of Korbanos outside the base, outside the Kodesh, it doesn't matter what you do with it. Says Mariel said, everywhere in the Torah, you go after the Torah. As the Torah Etzlan. Here it says you bring the Torah to the Kohen Gadol. What kind of derech eretz is that? Let the Kohen Gadol walk after the Torah, right? You should go get it.
Now, where was the Torah kept?
It was in our room. We don't know where it was, but they used a bucket brigade from there. Let the Kohen Gadol get it.
More honors, the president.
It's not what the Gemara answers. Funny you should say that. Gemara doesn't answer. And says more a very interesting thing. The Gemara says, since the people are Torah giants, it's a schus for the Torah to be carried by these many people. Interesting. It's because the Torah learners are more chosh than the Torah. Says more, wait a minute. But Amon in Bavel, my villain, I rise to Gabi Reish Galusa. They bring the Torah to Reish Galusa, even though he ain't such a big Talmud Chacham, so he's not giving to the Torah. No. Since the children of David are dwelling there, meaning the Reish Galusa from the house of David, it's like Minagav was saying b'yadayim. In other words, for the forefathers of the house, we did it, so we continue to do it even for these guys, even though they don't deserve it. Right, so it's an underhanded or overhanded or backhanded stuff, right? All right, we'll stop here for this evening. We did 2 blocks.